Good evening. Thank you for your presentation, Rania. Thank you to Günther and Anya for inviting me to this panel. I'm going to switch my phone on, not to go beyond the time given to me, and for the same reason. I'm sorry, but I'm going to read, otherwise I tend to open too many brackets. Now I'm sharing with you my presentation. Talk about projecting counter-apocalyptic scenarios. After the previous presentation, I think it's quite clear where I will be talking about from a post-humanist perspective of well, philosophical, media theoretical, and also from the point of view of art theory and practice. So I am very happy to be talking and to be taking part of a panel under the title The Future of Life. As you can see, I couldn't but think about the work of late biologist Edward Wilson. The cover here is just a little homage to Wilson, given that he passed away very, very recently. I'm not going to talk about his work, but of course, the term biodiversity, which he coined together with his friend and colleague Thomas Lovejoy, who also passed away very recently, is closely linked to what I'd like to present to you today. The title of my keynote, Projecting Counter-Apocalyptic Scenarios Through Art, Practice, and Theory, will need a very brief theoretical introduction, and then I will talk about two artistic practices, artistic projects concretely, that are, in my opinion, inspiring examples of counter-apocalyptic approaches. Okay, so, well, we've been here to really compelling presentations, in particular, the last one about the current situation. Regarding this topic, so I'm going to propose artistic practices as a way of triggering new ideas, new positions, possibly ethical positions regarding the current situation, which, as you all probably know, responds to the name of Anthropocene. So before projecting counter-apocalyptic scenarios, let's clear out that apocalypse, the complete final destruction of the world as described in the Bible, is often today linked to two other terms. The first one is the Anthropocene, and although there is no complete consensus in the sciences and in the humanities about the use of the term, and others have been proposed, Capitalocene, Thulocene, etc., it is actually the most used even by the ones who don't like it. Formally, the Anthropocene was introduced by Paul Crutzen and Eugene Stormer in 2000 to recognize the industrial age human as a geological force in which the human's impact upon the geomorphical and biological setup of planet Earth has become both momentous and irreversible via processes such as excavation, deforestation, urbanization, globalization. It is also a period that it experiences a mass extinction of various species as a result of anthropogenic factors. So as a result, as a result of human activity and overexploitation upon Earth. The second concept, or better, the second event, okay, is of course the sixth mass extinction as a consequence and part of the event of the Anthropocene. This is, well, the definition that you can find on Wikipedia of the explanation of what is happening at the sixth mass extinction, and it's broader than what I bring in here, but for what I'm going to say, this is enough. So the Holocene extinction, otherwise referred to as the sixth mass extinction or Anthropocene extinction, is an ongoing extinction event of species during the present Holocene epoch, with the more recent time sometimes called the Anthropocene, as a result always of human activities. The included extinction span numerous families of bacteria, fungi, plants, animals, including mammals, birds, reptiles, amphibians, fish, and vertebrates. The current rate of extinction of species is estimated at 100 to 1,000 times higher than natural background extinction rates. Okay, so if the extinction should have been produced by natural causes, okay, it would be less terrible. So the term counter-apocalypse is a term I borrowed and that has been coined by media theorist and philosopher and artist Joanna Zielińska in this little book I had the pleasure to edit and translate to Italian, in which, in a very ironic fashion, and you will see also that the projects, the artistic projects that I'm going to show you in the end also have sort of an ironic take. She deploys a critique of what she calls masculinist solutionism. Here, I hope you watched this film recently, otherwise this poster that you see there of a film supposedly called Total Devastation is part of the recent film by Adam McKay, Don't Look Up. So Total Devastation, and what the actor of the film explains about it summarizes quite well this idea of masculinist solutionism. That is the vision of the man who looks at the world as his own playground, who feels a certain kind of pride for the problems he has created on planetary level with his impressive technological developments, and who in the same way considers to be able to solve it with his techno-fixes. A clear example is, for instance, Elon Musk and his Project X, who proposes to escape to Mars if things get really bad. Something that is also featured in the film as a possibility. But we can also criticize what could be called a sort of jouissance, okay, of the apocalypse. That is the fact that behind the complaint about how bad things are, there hides a profound pleasure, often badly concealed, a sort of both of pride and joy in the fact that everyone is going to die, because he, the masculinist solutionist, of course, is not. So this sort of pride in, okay, we created such great tools, that we created such a great mess, but we are going to solve it sooner or later. So as I was saying, Alan McKay take on these ideas. Also, it's a drama, okay, but it's also ironic. It's sort of a parody, and I guess we are all reading more or less the same books. Maybe Zielińska, maybe also Timothy Morton. But I think Total Devastation as a film, even if it is a fake film, gives the idea. Of course, I may not need to clear this out, but when we are talking about masculinist solutionism, we are not talking necessarily of men, or at least of all men, as Zielińska and other theories claim when we criticize the idea of men and of these sort of positions, and in particular when talks about anthropocentrism and moving away from humanism. What we are talking about is moving away of a certain idea of the human. So the human is not every human, but it is a male, Western, white, probably rich and educated male. So the cultural mindset, we are talking, when we talk about masculinist solutionism, we are talking about the cultural mindset that triggers a certain set of attitudes towards the Anthropocene, and not only, which of course can also be performed by women. It's not exclusive of male. So what does it mean to build counter-apocalyptic scenarios, and what would imply part of the title of Zielińska's book, which is a feminist counter-apocalypse? A feminist counter-apocalypse promises liberation from the form of subjectivity into a competitive, overachieving and overreaching masculinity. Okay, so a bit what I was saying before. Sorry, I'm just controlling the time I have. Okay. One possible path to think of counter-apocalypse scenarios can be found in the idea formulated by Anna Zing of precarity as the condition of being vulnerable to others, as a life without the promise of stability. This is an idea that resonates, at least for me, with Jacques Derrida's ideas of finitude and passivity. Finitude the sense that we are all, and not only the humans, going to die, and passivity, the fact that all sentient beings suffer. Both finitude and passivity are what all sentient beings share and form the basis for rethinking human relationships with other living beings and the fundamental basis for a new ethics, okay? So a new position of responsibility toward others, which is not, in the case of a theorist like Zelinsky, and I would say also of myself, only a responsibility towards humans, but is a responsibility towards, we could say, all the living. Precarity does not mean a passive acceptance of the liberalization of work or of resigned conditions of poverty, but on the contrary, it is a concept like finitude that introduces a common ground among living beings on the basis of which a non-anthropocentric ethics can be developed, okay, as a shared assumption of responsibility towards others. It also prompts us to ask if unbridled progress is no longer an option, what kinds of coexistences and collaborations do we want to create in this aftermath? Okay, so, well, I hope the project that I'm going to show you soon can trigger some, at least, associations regarding this. The answer to this question will be manifold, but they will have to arise from a stance which elsewhere I have called the assumption of a point of view. So the assumption of a point of view for me implies taking responsibility for this point of view and responsibility towards others. So it is a way of saying ethics, which contemplates multiplicity and difference as the only possible starting point for coexistence and survival at the time of the sixth mass extinction on the planet. Okay, so here I'm following a bit Rossi Braidotti's injunction to produce new alliances between art and philosophy in order to create new knowledge, which is also somehow the aim of GRASP Network, the mission of GRASP Network, and hopefully change. I'd like to propose two artistic projects that loosely address some of these issues at stake. When I say loosely, is of course for me the interest of art, of artistic projects, and also I would say the effectiveness that they can have in creating new knowledge and creating awareness and possibly or hopefully change, is that they are of course not illustrations of a certain ideas. So these projects hint in different ways to life, death, extinction, precarity, difference, alterity, finitude, and well, we could also go on. This first project by Ivana Daime-Macaque, she is an artist working in France, in Paris. The zombie series stems from her interest in different states of the living. In her oeuvre, which started exploring the paradoxical relationships of human with non-human beings around 20 years ago, Daime-Macaque has investigated the state of death, of aliveness, and in this series, she explores a state of in-betweenness, precisely that of the zombie, which is nor dead nor alive, or in other words, is a living dead. I'm going to show you another photo. Daime-Macaque started researching on techniques to preserve vegetables around 2015 for another work, which was a remake, we could say, an homage to the famous sculpture of Giovanni Anselmo's piece from 1968, senza titolo Struttura che mangia, which is a piece which includes fresh lettuce, seeking to suspend the freshness of the lettuce and at the same time to remove the evolving aspect and the need of maintenance of the original sculpture. This feeling of suspension is further explored in the zombie series, which you are seeing here, and well, here you have a close-up, in which she treated different vegetables, several cabbage varieties, lettuce, celery, and the seaweeds, harvesting the vegetables herself with a procedure that comes from floral decoration techniques. The glycerin treatment prevents the vegetables from going rotten. preserving certain characteristics of the living, or at least fresh vegetables, like its flexibility, but lose others, like the green color or the crispiness, creating the ambiguous and a bit uncanny impression of something that it isn't alive nor dead. There is an interest in this series of somehow fixing life, of running the always already lost race against death, we could say also of extinction, and a bit like the effect of Botox in humans, even if certain characteristics of aliveness or of youth are preserved, the overall appearance is of decadence and decrepitude. Adaime Macaque arranges the living dead vegetables in a way that alludes to funeral crowns, but can also recall the floral crowns worn in certain pagan spring rituals. In this sense, as with the rest of Adaime Macaque's oeuvre, ambiguity and a loose adherence to meanings are the ground for triggering a myriad of associations and interpretations which are suggested but never controlled. Okay, so I think also this idea of not controlling the interpretation, but also which way the living is going to take in her work in general is part of the interest of her work. The SEPCOM project I would like to talk about, sorry, yes, I have 4 minutes left, is by Axel Strashnoi, an artist working in Helsinki in Finland. They are called the Permian projects and are 2 linked projects developed together. These projects have been developed on the Natural History Collection at the Perm Regional Museum in Russia. The backdrop of the projects is the end Permian extinction, the biggest extinction ever to take place on Earth, at least till now. The projects reflect on the museum's collection and the ongoing extinction process of the 6 mass extinction. So this city, Perm, gives its name to the Permian period, as you know, lasting roughly from 300 to 250 million years ago. The period ended in the largest mass extinction ever recorded, but it is also the only known mass extinction of insects. Because of this historical connection, the local regional Museum of Natural History exhibits mainly Permian fossils. However, it also holds a wide range of items, mostly from the Holocene period, around 2,000 years ago, which are never displayed. The Permian projects, these 2 projects, consist of a collection of insects, you are looking at some of them, exterminated by the museum as part of the museum's conservation efforts, and a series of dioramas on the taxidermied animals in the collection. You saw here a photo. One of the jewels in the museum's collections is the entomological collection. Because of the risk that alive bugs present to the dead bugs in the collection, the room where it is housed is fumigated twice yearly. The museum kills living insects to keep the dead insects intact. Focused on the nature out there, the museum fails to consider itself as a place overrun by living beings, some of which might work against its stated mission. At Strashnoi's insistence, the museum has begun collecting the insect it kills as part of its conservation efforts. These insects now form, and here you have some portraits, a new collection, the Perm Regional Museum's Insect Collection, which are archived and catalogued in the same manner as the other collections in storage. He also shot, Strashnoi, the artist, photographic portraits of each of the insects, out of which a series of prints, you are seeing just 4, there are many, and a book were produced. The second part of the project is the dioramas. The dioramas of the Perm Regional Museum is the series of three-dimensional lenticular, you cannot see it here, photographs presenting some of the stuffed animals in the collection in storage. In natural science museums, dioramas are usually three-dimensional, either scaled or natural size replicas of the habitat of certain animals. In this case, in particular, these habitats do not exist anymore. So the environments, the biodiversity, the whole environment has been destroyed, and most of these species are also extinct, okay? So for the remaining animals, it wouldn't make sense to return to them, to this. So the museum decided to dismantle the dioramas, so the extinct environments, with the extinct taxidermized animals, and now they live in storage rooms or in offices around the museum. Hence, the storage rooms, documented by Strashnoi, have become their natural biome. For the mounted animals in the collection, the museum is the natural environment where they exist, their biome now. As their living relatives progressively go extinct, the museum becomes the only location in which the species survive, or better, where they are preserved as in an archive, which becomes, again, their natural habitat, so to speak. So I'd be happy if you had any questions or comments now, and well, thank you for your attention.